The Spider-Man Far From Home trailer is about to play, but if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame yet, stop watching because there's some serious spoilers about to come up. But if you have seen Avengers Endgame, enjoy the trailer. Everywhere I go, I see his face. I just really miss him.
Yeah, I miss him too.
I don't think Tony would have done what he did if he didn't know that you were going to be here after he was gone.
You gonna be the next Iron Man now?
Well, no, I don't have time. I'm too busy doing your jobs.
What?
I'm kidding. Look, keep up the good work because I am going on vacation.
Heads up, Nick Fury's calling you.
I don't really want to talk to Nick
Answer
Fury.
the phone.
Why?
Because if you don't talk to him, then I have to talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. You sent Nick Fury to voicemail?
I gotta go.
You do not ghost Nick Fury.
What up, dorks?
What's up? We're just talking about the trip.
I'm here in St. Marco Polo's. Oh,
I think MJ really likes me.
that reminds me when I first fell in love.
You're a very difficult person to contact, Spider-Man. This is Mr. Beck.
We could have used someone like you on my world.
Your world?
Beck is from Earth, just not ours. The snap to our hole in our dimension.
You're saying there's a multiverse?
We have a job to do, and you're coming with us.
There's gotta be someone else you can use. What about Thor?
Off-world.
Captain Marvel?
Unavailable.
But I'm just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Bitch, please, you've been to space.
What do you want, Peter?
I want to go back on my trip with the girl who I really like and tell her how I feel. MJ, I
am Spider-Man.
No, of course I'm not.
I mean, it's kind of obvious.
You're right, you may not be ready, but this is my responsibility. Saving the world requires sacrifice. Sometimes people die.
Oh my God.
I just always feel like I'm putting my friends in danger. The world needs the next Iron Man.
Are you going to step up or not?
I gotta get you guys out of here. Get on the jet. Who are you? I work with Spider-Man.
You work for Spider-Man?
I work with Spider-Man, not for Spider-Man. New plan.
What is good, YouTube? Warstu here with a video on the Spider-Man Far From Home new trailer, but specifically talking about the multiverse. So, during the new trailer for Spider-Man, it was specifically said that Mysterio is from another Earth, and the effects of Endgame created a drift, a tear in the multiverse, which, interestingly enough, no one before Endgame even mentioned the multiverse existed in the MCU. So it kind of confirms that the MCU multiverse is confirmed, which is interesting. So if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to never miss any of the videos. We are giving away a Hasbro Infinity Gauntlet. All you gotta do is comment on the video and let me know down below, what is Marvel gonna do with the multiverse? But before we talk about that, there's a lot of things to go over. So we do know that Fox is now owned by Disney, so in theory they could introduce the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Deadpool, a bunch of different characters like that. But the only problem we have here is how long is the Sony and Spider-Man deal going to coexist? Because realistically you could say that they could actually introduce the Spideyverse. You know, the really popular Spideyverse movie they did with Gwen Stacy and obviously Miles Morales and all that kind of stuff. That would be so awesome if one day they could do that with a multiverse storyline during Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man. But like I say, the issue here is that Amy Pascal is recently left Sony for Universal. So hopefully they can keep this contract going together because the multiverse storyline is interesting. Now, I do believe there's a lot of crazy theories going around going, what if Mysterio's a lion? Well, I don't really think Nick Fury would go on Mysterio just saying there's a multiverse drift and there's a tear in the multiverse. Obviously, Nick Fury knows everything. He knew about Captain Marvel before anyone, interesting enough in this trailer. Spider-Man does actually call her Captain Marvel first time, which is interesting. So Nick Fury would do his research before obviously believing anything. So it is fascinating with the actual potential of what the multiverse actually means, because obviously the multiverse in the Marvel comics is there's essentially multiple Earths, like Earth 616, etc. A lot of comic book material which they could pull on, but it is potentially amazing and potentially groundbreaking. Mysterio during this second trailer looked absolutely insane. So the multiverse exists in both Marvel and DC. Essentially, if you want to know what the multiverse is, just go and watch The Flash Season 1 and Season 2. Amazing. But specifically, The Flash Season 2, that explains the multiverse amazing. But how many Earths are there in the Marvel Universe? Well, essentially, there are 3 main ones, but the main one that most people will refer you to is Earth 616. But essentially, there's a bunch of different Earths, which is pretty cool. So how does the multiverse work? Well, essentially, the multiverse is essentially a collection of alternate universes with a similar nature and a universal hierarchy. The Marvel Multiverse contains the universe that holds Earth 616. Most of What If universes are as well vast numbers of alternate Marvel Universes Earths. So essentially it is a pretty cool storyline which they could pull from and do lots of different stuff. Like I said, they could introduce into the Spideyverse. They could introduce alternate variations of Spider-Man like Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, if they can get them on board and stuff like that. So it is pretty cool. But what they could do is everyone seems to think that for some reason Avengers 5 will be the X-Men versus the Avengers. Now, having the multiverse could be a way where they could introduce these new Fox characters without using the quantum realm, or they're all been hiding in the subatomic city and stuff like that, and they could introduce Wolverine and that kind of stuff that way. So that would be a fascinating way to do it. But with the kind of the schedule they've already got for Phase 4, you know, we've got Black Widow, we've got the Eternals, we've got Shang-Chi, hopefully I said that right, they've got Doctor Strange 2, they've got Black Panther 2, and they've got so many movies already in their schedule. So Kevin Feige did recently say that don't expect the X-Men to show up for at least 5 years in the MCU. But what happens if the X-Men are actually going to show up inside this multiverse universe instead of actually showing up in the MCU, and the X-Men don't actually show up for 5 years until they get to the MCU, if you get what I'm saying? I think there is a lot of freaking awesome potential, and at first I didn't think the multiverse was a good idea in the MCU, but now I really, really think it's such a fantastic idea that they've brought to the table. It's something that DC's been doing for a long time. If you're a big Flash fan, you would know exactly what the multiverse is. So I would love to know what you guys think down below. Which way would you take it? Would you have an alternate kind of different Earths with obviously different Spider-Mans? Would you do a kind of Spideyverse with Gwen Stacy, with Miles Morales, with lots of different versions of Spider-Man? That would be interesting, but that would be harder to pull off because obviously the Spider-Man characters are owned by Sony, and there's got to be a really good relationship with Sony to allow them to bring the likes of Miles Morales and stuff over like that. So I think it would be a much better version to bring like the X-Men through the multiverse. That would be a pretty awesome route to go about it. But at the same time, these movies are catered for the general audience, not for comic book fans, not for people who understand what the multiverse means, what alternate timelines mean, and stuff like that. So would a multiverse storyline introducing the X-Men, or like in Spideyverse or alternate versions of Spider-Man, would that confuse the general audience? Because you have to understand, although a lot of the general audience, like the general market for these kind of movies would be, I don't know, like the likes of 20, like the likes of 16 to 30, is the movies are also catered for children. So children will have to understand the parameters of the multiverse. So whichever way they actually go about doing this, guys, they're gonna have to simplify everything. Now, I personally would love to see the variation of the Tobey Maguire, the Andrew Garfield, all the other Spider-Mans that we've had already in the Sony Spideyverse. That could be something they could do. Or like I said, they could introduce obviously the likes of the Into Spideyverse characters, you know, the Miles Morales, the Gwen Stacy, the alternate timeline Peter Parker, where in that timeline he's not with MJ and all that kind of stuff. That would be a pretty decent route as well. But there is unlimited potential. I'm so excited for the future of Spider-Man, regardless to what universe he's in, because obviously they've got to keep the deal with Sony. That's a very important factor for the multiverse to be kicked off. I mean, I do think it's a bit strange reason why no one's ever introduced or mentioned the multiverse in it, but a tear in the multiverse is a good excuse to introduce this. Now, I know Mysterio has a wedding ring on and stuff, so you could say that. I don't know if you zoom in on him, you could see that. So you could say, oh, he's lying, he's lying. No, I don't think he's lying. I don't think they're going to drop the multiverse, which for comic book fans, for people that are fans of the Flash TV show, for people that are fans of comic books as a whole, it would be so darn disrespectful to drop the multiverse in and just have it to be a little Easter egg when realistically, and go, oh yeah, by the way, Mysterio isn't actually from another Earth, he was just saying that. That would really trigger a lot of people. So it is fascinating. It's very, very fascinating. I'm really excited to see what the future of Marvel with Spider-Man is, and hopefully they can keep on to Spider-Man. Obviously he is owned by Sony, so at the moment it is a bit and ahhing because they've only got one more deal left on their contract. So obviously hopefully they can renew it. Hopefully Amy Pascal does kind of stay with them in some aspects. The initial report with Deadline did say that Amy Pascal was hoping to stay on with them, which would be a pretty good way, I think, to incorporate this new universe. But I'm presuming because obviously Amy Pascal knows when or everything that's going down, and obviously they said that Spider-Man Far From Home was actually specifically set after Endgame. It all makes sense now how they kept saying, oh no, some people are like, oh, it's before Endgame, it's set during Infinity War. No, the fact they've introduced like the multiverse, that introduced that Iron Man is actually dead. No guys, it is 1000% set after Endgame, which is very good, very fascinating. It still doesn't really answer the question about where and why most of his school friends seem to be still there. I think that is a little bit of a plot hole, but the fact the multiverse is now in the MCU, to me, it is freaking awesome. So like always, guys, would love to hear what all you guys have to say about the multiverse. Which variation of the multiverse would you like to see? Which characters would you like to see come through? Do you think this could like spark a bigger kind of villain in the future? Because as we know, they will be building up to the Sinister Six with Norman Osborn. From what we are hearing on the channel, it is Marvel's plan. This is not official. It's unofficial. Marvel is building up to the point where the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, is going to be the main villain and is going to be a pretty hot thing inside the MCU. But a lot of this will factor into the point is if they keep on to Sony having the relationship with the MCU to the point where they could actually use Spider-Man long term, because they do have terms and conditions. They don't actually own the character, so it is a sticky situation for them. But hopefully they already have re-signed a massive deal and stuff like that, so they can plan this crazy multiverse that in theory could introduce anyone, the likes of Doctor Doom, Galactus, you name it, the Beyonder. They could even set up Secret Wars. They could, like, you know, the Beyonder storyline where you have the supervillains versus the heroes, and that story would completely blow Avengers Endgame out the water if you had the likes of Magneto, Charles X, etc. All the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, and all these great characters going at each other. So in theory, they could be building up to something like Secret Wars for Avengers 5, or a storyline where the Avengers take on the X-Men. I would just love to know what you guys think about this idea down below. Which idea would you think would be the best? But keep it realistic, guys. I know we like to fancast on here, but it is a freaking awesome reveal today that, yes, like I said a few days ago, the multiverse is here. I don't just think it's a throwaway line saying he's from another Earth. I really think they are teeing up the multiverse within Spider-Man Far From Home and obviously the MCU in the future. So like always, guys, please like, subscribe, and comment. I will catch you in another video, and very soon, catch ya later.